Concerns have been raised about the impact of the EFF's national shutdown march, which is taking place tomorrow. Protesters are calling for President Cyril Ramaphosa's resignation and an end to load shedding, among other issues. For more on this, particularly looking at the cost to the economy, Business Unity South Africa CEO Cas Coovadia, as well as the South African Federation of Trade Union General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi. Gentlemen, good evening, and thank you very much for your time and for joining us tonight here on In Focus. The first question, I suppose, to both of you, but let me begin with you, Cas. You've said that counterintuitive is this shutdown to demand a stay away, to protest against joblessness, to protest against the problems we are having in the energy, to protest against an economy that is not growing. He says what we actually need is to be working, people earning money and creating more jobs. That would be a best way to turn things around in this economy. Here's my question to you, Cas. The Democratic Alliance says it will cost about 1.2 billion in generated wealth, this shutdown a day. The South African Reserve Bank says it's costing us almost the same, about $51 million lost every day due to load shedding. At the end of the year, we're going to have 250 days of load shedding in 2023. It will cost us 12.7 billion US dollars. 1.2 billion rands, 12.7 billion US dollars. Is it worth it?
Well, those are figures that demonstrate what load shedding is doing to our economy. So there's no argument. There's no argument with the EFF that load shedding is a critical issue. The energy crisis is a critical issue. But forcing, because that's exactly what they're doing through their utterances, forcing people not to go to work, businesses to close or trying to force them to close, and causing greater damage to our economy, does not deal with the load shedding issue and does not deal with the energy crisis. As business, what view have we taken about the load shedding issue and the energy crisis? We are extremely concerned about its impact on the economy, its impact on business. And so we've said that we need to work very hard to implement the one plan on the table, which was the plan announced by the President last year, which we believe over the next 2 to 2.5 years will help us hopefully get rid of load shedding. And also to make urgent interventions in the short term to stabilize load shedding at lower levels. And that's what we're doing. We're working, we've raised money to put expertise into NECOM to get the President's plan implemented as quickly as possible. So that's the way to deal with the impact of load shedding, not just on the economy, but on ordinary citizens of this country and the impact of the energy crisis, not to close down the economy. And that's the argument that we are making. We agree with the issue, but we don't agree with the mechanism to deal with the issue that the EFF is actually putting on the table and trying to force tomorrow.
Yeah. Dr. Vavi, you agree with the issue and you also agree with the method, which is why you are joining the shutdown. It's costing us, at least what we know right now, just to protect the citizens of this country and businesses, 166 million rands to deploy the soldiers. We heard there in that insert just moments ago from Airports Company South Africa that the cost to protect that infrastructure is going to be even higher than that, because of course they're going to deploy at the airport as well. But the police commissioner of Gauteng says the response is also going to be costly, because the approach that you're taking is not the normal approach of protesting. Yes, it's your constitutional right, but you are not saying we are going to be on this route. You're just going to be everywhere. It's a response that is going to take away resources that I suppose otherwise would be building roads, fixing potholes, and doing other things, now have got to be deployed to ensure that this process is controlled. What do you say?
Well, first and foremost, let's just deal with one matter. I find it very disturbing, in fact, very deliberate that you guys in the media continue to talk about an EFF March shutdown when you quite aware that this call may have been made initially by the EFF, but the base now is much more broader than just the economic freedom fighters. Saftu is no EFF, it's not even in alliance with the EFF. The working class organizations, countless of them, that have announced that they are participating are not EFF. The other left-leaning political parties are not EFF. We think that the reason why the media insists on calling this an EFF demonstration or shutdown is deliberately trying to narrow its base of support, and so that other South Africans who identify with the issues that we are taking up tomorrow may find it nervous to join a political party, a singular political party. This is not a singular political party demonstration. It's much more broader than that. But we are not in charge of the newsrooms, are we? We're not. So you continue to say EFF. On the ground, we continue to say working class. Now, on the second question you are raising, the figures that we are stating in the introduction speaks for themselves. If you multiply a $13 billion lost due to load shedding and convert it into rands, bearing in mind that the rand hit a 19 rands a week or two ago, you are talking about a 247 billion rands that is being lost to the economy due to load shedding. That's the starting point. To complain about 1.2 billion that may be lost tomorrow, when we are trying to save the economy a 247 billion rands, is to rather try to compare bananas and apples. There is not even something to consider in the equation. The cost is not the same. Every South African that is concerned about those figures must join the protest tomorrow. Every South African that have lost a job as a result of this carnage visited on the economy have to join. Every small business that doesn't have a generator or solar panels to put on the rooftops, that is forced to close and or to work half-time every day, must join the protest action to say enough is enough. The 11 million people economy, hopefully that will be one day transformed into an inclusive economy for all, instead of the economy of the 1%, must join to say enough is enough.
Back live with you tonight, Cas Coovadia, CEO of Business Unity South Africa, Saftu General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi, as well as Julekha, Latib, member of the Voice of All Hawkers Association, joining us now. Julekha, good to have you. Thank you very much for making the time to come on tonight. Zwelinzima Vavi says, well, it's not an EFF march. In fact, it's working class people who will be marching tomorrow. And I would assume your members are working class people. Am I correct?
Yes, we're definitely working class people.
And your members are affected by load shedding. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a crisis.
How comfortable then are your members knowing that they need to shut down their operations tomorrow?
Well, our members are skeptical, but they do know if the goods gets removed or touched or looted, they will be affected. We are actually still dealing with COVID-19, and people have still not recovered from the losses that they've lost. So for tomorrow, it would be a huge impact on their livelihood, but they will be staying away because they feel that they should be staying away because it affects everybody. It doesn't matter where you come from, who you are, it's going to affect you.
And how do they recover from the cost of a day of income that they would have lost? I mean, you'd think Cas Coovadia and the folks that speak to him, big business, will probably find a way to recover, I think, but he'll tell us more. But how do you recover from a day of trading that is lost?
It's definitely going to be a huge impact. It's not going to be it's no child's play, because, like I said, people are still recovering from COVID-19, and they're suffering on the streets. It's not a joke on the street. It's going to be an impact on all of the traders, not only one, but everybody.
Yeah. Cas, how significant is going to be the economic damage? Are we going to wake up on Tuesday and things are going to cost more?
No, I don't think you'll wake up on Tuesday and things are going to cost more. I mean, you don't have an immediate economic impact of that sort. What it does mean is that it makes it more difficult for us to actually convince investors to invest in this country. Economic downturn for one day, you've got the Reserve Bank figures and other figures, cost you anything between, depending on how many businesses close and what the downturn is, could cost you anything between $1.5 and $4 billion lost in GDP. At a time when we already have a 1.3% drop in our GDP in the last quarter. So I think that, and over the medium term, we'll feel the impact of that. We'll feel the impact of that because businesses have to grow to actually create jobs. Businesses have to grow to ensure that goods and services are actually produced and delivered. And all of that stops to a certain extent when there's a stay away. So the authorities tell us that as far as they are concerned, this is a protest. And you have, the Constitution protects your right to actually protest. And we have no problem with the EFF or the EFF, Saftu and others protesting. But to create an environment through the utterances of the EFF, and it's the utterances of the EFF. Others participating in this action have not said that, but the utterances of the EFF create an environment of uncertainty, an environment of intimidation, an environment that actually says that if we open our shops, if we open our factories, if we go to work, there will be problems. And that is unacceptable. And we would hope that those who are participating in this action with the EFF actually say that that is unacceptable. And those are the sorts of issues we need to deal with. The right to protest is there, but don't create conditions before you protest that actually bring about intimidation, foment violence, because that's what could happen. And so, and all of that put together actually has a significant impact, negative impact on investment and growth.
Yeah. Saftu Vavi, threats, intimidation, foment violence, and they deter investors. They do two things. They bring about instability and they bring about unpredictability.
Saftu and the working class formations addressed the media on Friday. And we made it absolutely clear that we are participating because we've made a call and we have been given guarantees by everybody participating that the demonstrations will remain peaceful within the ambit of the law, and that no intimidation of any other person who chooses to ignore the calls will be tolerated. And we have called on the law enforcement agencies to do the bit that they can in ensuring that the agent provocateurs that may join our peaceful demonstrations are identified, and we ourselves will hand over any agent provocateurs to the authorities. The leader of the EFF, Julius Malema, addressed a press conference on Thursday to make exactly the same statements, that there will be no tolerance for violence, for intimidation.
Let me just come in there. You use the word in your media address, the word militant. We will be militant. What did you mean by that?
It means that the knees will go higher than usual. It means that the singing will be far more louder than normal. It means that we will do that for as long as the whole day can take to issue a warning and to demonstrate to everybody that we've had enough.
So what you say while we are there, I'm going to give you an opportunity. For example, today on the platform here in Newzroom Afrika, we heard one who's part with the organizers saying that, well, if you are a shop and you're selling food and people are protesting, they are hungry, there's no telling what people are going to do. What does that mean?
No, who said that? I missed that. Because that would be totally wrong. You can't say to people, we're going to be eating your food for free and because we are angry. No, that will just not be acceptable. I don't remember anybody in the leadership of the people we're working with communicating a message of that kind.
But a message of that kind, would you say, is akin to intimidation?
If you say to people, we will eat your food for free, that's clearly not acceptable. It amounts to interfering with the rights of other people to go about doing their own business on the day. And we've made it very clear that people must be allowed to do their own business in the manner that they choose to do. Surely you can't say we are protesting and therefore if we get hungry, we will eat your food. That's totally not acceptable.
So how are you going to protect those businesses that choose to open and sell food on the day?
The police, as we have seen in the army, are out in the streets, and since yesterday, we have called on them to protect any other person's constitutional right not to participate in the activity. And we have said ourselves, if we are able to identify any person who clearly join with an intention of discrediting the demonstrations, we will hand over those to the authorities. And let me emphasize this point. Anybody who tomorrow will choose to intimidate, to beat up, to ban a single taxi or a truck must know that is discrediting the EFF and is destroying the image of Saftu as well as all other formations that are going to be demonstrating and or participating in the demonstration. And we want to make a call to everybody. Please do not discredit us. Please do not destroy our political mileage. We've worked for years for the credibility that we enjoy in society. We do not want anything that will look like the July 2021 when trucks were banned left, right, and center, when over 300 people lost their lives. That's not what we are trying to do tomorrow. We want to, yes, communicate a message that we've had enough. We're going to be occupying the streets. And there's absolutely nothing suggesting that when you occupy the streets of your country, you are trying to topple a government,
right,
as these ministers have been trying to say. But please give me an opportunity to respond to Cas when he speaks about the economy and the investment.
I'll bring you in for that as we wrap up. Julekha, are you confident, or I mean, the fact that you are not going to show up tomorrow, I suppose, is a sense that you are not confident that the police and the security forces that have been deployed will be able to protect you?
Comrade, I had an emergency. I'm in Northwest. I'm not in Gauteng. So I am definitely not in Gauteng. It's unfortunate that I had an emergency. But I would be, as a working class, I would have been there at the demonstration. But for my members, for our organization and all traders, I would request them not to go to work tomorrow, because we don't want their things to be looted or any violent tendencies, we are afraid that they will be on their own. We don't have enough security on the streets. There's no safety. Even in our informal traders, the streets, I'm talking about the taxi rank and so on, we don't have security. So how are these people going to be taken care of, especially in remote areas where they don't have security? So for the sake of the people on the ground, we would want them to be safe, but they have to stay away tomorrow because we don't want casualties and we don't want unnecessary things that would happen. So for the safety, especially for the older people, I request they mustn't go to work tomorrow. I thank you.
All right, Saftu Vavi, quickly respond to then the question of the deferring of investment in the country because of the instability and unpredictability that comes with the threats and intimidation.
There is an effective strike by big business that is unfolding in South Africa. There is extreme unpatriotic activities that they've embarked upon since the dawn of democracy. And these actions are demonstrated by the following. They are hoarding 1.6 trillion rands. It's in their back pockets, it is in their banks, and they are not investing in the economy. As a result of that, the investment of both the private sector and the public sector to the economy or the GDP has led to the situation where the percent of investment have dropped from 23, 22% in the past, is now down to 16, 17%. And as a result of that, the economy is not growing.
Yeah.
Secondly, there's unpatriotic behaviors on the part of business in that they are involved in what we call illicit cash outflows to the tune of between 300 and 400 billion rands every year, doing this through mispricing, through all manner of schemes to just loot resources that are so desperately needed in the country, and they put this money into the tax havens all over the world. Thirdly, the tax commission appointed by the government pointed out that every year the big business is dodging its responsibility to the taxman to the tune of 50 billion rands. In addition, the Treasury official told us as a country that business is looting between 35 and 40% of the government procurement budget every financial year. So the very same people who are involved in those type of activities cannot be the ones lecturing us about scaring investment. Who scared the investment leading to them holding a 1.6 trillion rands?
Yeah.
That could have...
Cas, I anticipate that the cash hoarding debate will come, the illicit financial flow debate will come, and the tax evasion debate would come. To say it's good and well when we call for a shutdown, you call on a deferment of investment when there is a so-called cash hoarding that is being pointed at business.
Yeah, so I didn't say I'll be calling on a deferment of investment. I'm saying that these sorts of actions don't raise confidence amongst investors to invest. And look, it's just, I'm not going to enter into a debate and you don't have time for that. But to call business unpatriotic a week after we actually announced business raising 100 million rand to provide expertise to NECOM to implement the energy plan, exactly what this protest or stay away is actually raising as an issue, is just, just doesn't add up to what Comrade Vavi is saying. Business will invest when an environment is created for investment where you can actually invest, you can be profitable, you can operate sustainably, and you can pay taxes, and you can employ people. And an example of that is when the President last year raised the ceiling for embedded energy from 10 megawatts to 100 megawatts, something we've been calling for a number of years. You now have upwards of 100 projects invested by business in embedded energy to the value of upwards of 4 billion rand. Create the environment and the investment flows. It's not in the interest of business to keep money in banks. It's the interest of business to actually use money, to actually grow their businesses, create more businesses, employ people, pay dividends, pay taxes, and grow the economy. So, you know, it's not a boycott. Create the environment and the investment will flow. And to call business unpatriotic when we've been working for the last few years to try and help government and support government to do what it should be doing. We've just raised 100 million rand to put expertise into NECOM to implement the plan. Facts speak for themselves.
No.
Yes, you will. I'll give you a chance to respond. How confident are you, Kaz, in the government response? 166 million, the president has just declared, has been signed to release soldiers to protect the country.
Well, look, we don't know what's the internal discussions are. The net joints have come out publicly to say that they are ready, unlike in July 2021. We think that the front of line people should be the South African Police Services tomorrow, because that is their job. They are there to install law and order. I think that for the military to be on standby, it shows that we actually mobilizing all of our forces in the event that they are needed. But the front line should be the police, and if the police feel that they need help from the military, they must ask for that. But we would expect our forces of law and order to actually just hold the peace tomorrow if they need to.
Yeah. President Vavi, let's hear you. 100 million in the Resource Mobilization Fund is said to be out there now by business. Surely that can't be called unpatriotic or called cash hoarding?
The South African businesses are extremely self-centered, extremely unpatriotic, and are rated either number one or second position as the most corrupt in the entire world by PWP. Research after research says South Africa's business come some year after China and India, or sometimes the holding position number one in the whole world in terms of being the most corrupt. So we can't deny that now that we're trying to pull wool on the eyes of South Africans. That's the first point. The second point is that no one can be able to dispute the points and the examples that are making, because these are coming from the Financial Services Center of the Reserve Bank. That's what it is. They telling us that we're losing between 300 and 400 billion. It is just Dennis Davis, whose report that everybody knows and cannot contest, told us that we are losing 50 billion rands. It is the Treasury officials, very senior, that tells us these guys are looting between 35 and 40% of the procurement budget. And lastly, the 100 billion rands that is now being waived is again self-serving, self-centered business that is trying to get government to privatize energy generation in our country. They are investing that money so that government can hand over electricity generation to them to generate profit with. That's basically what we are dealing with here. And not some patriotic people who are trying to say to solve the crisis the society is facing. Saftu is insisting that energy provision is a basic service that must remain in the hands of the state. Water, transport, education, healthcare, security. You can't hand over those basic necessities to big business to generate profit. And that's why we're rejecting even this offer of 100 million. Right. They would not do that if that was not going to help them generate maximum profit even in the height of the worst crisis South Africa is facing.
We're out of time. Let's leave it there. Gentlemen, I appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on. Cas Coovadia as well as Zwelinzima Vavi.